I can't believe I had forgotten about this, but here's a story for you. I was 15 years old, and back in those days you'd usually catch my friends and I at the big AMC movie theater. It's a huge theater, kind of reminds me of an airport almost, and it was a popular hangout for kids that age on weekends. I remember going to the movies one night with friends, and a group of guys approached us. We started chatting and flirting, as you do at that age. They said they went to one of the local high schools. One of the guys I was talking to eventually asked for my phone number, and I gave it to him. I was naive and thought this was harmless. These were the days before cell phones were ubiquitous, so I gave him my home phone number. He called me maybe a day or two after that, and we talked for a bit. We had a few more phone conversations here and there before he asked me on a date. As we made plans to meet, he told me that he needed to tell me something. He admitted that he wasn't actually 16 or whatever age he said he was, and he wasn't in high school. He was 22. I fell silent, trying to think of my response, but there was more. Not only was he 22, but he had also been in prison and was recently released. Why? Accessory to murder for being in the car when his friend shot someone while driving by. I still remember the feeling of being frozen in fear. I calmly said that I didn't want to talk to him anymore, and to please never call me again, and hung up. After I hung up, the phone immediately started ringing. I picked it up, but before I could even say hello, this man had called back and was already screaming at the top of his lungs into the phone. I can't remember exactly what he was saying, but it was along the lines of, "Don't you ever effing hang up on me," calling me every name in the book. I hung up again, this time leaving the phone off the receiver. I remember being so scared to tell my parents because I didn't want them to be disappointed in me. They were always so proud of me for making good decisions. It was my fault after all, giving some guy I just met my phone number, so I didn't say anything at first. The calls kept coming, but to keep my parents in the dark, I usually made sure I was the one answering the phone when it rang. He told me that he put my home phone number into a reverse phone directory and found my address. He would call and say things like, "I like your sister's new green car," to make sure I knew he was watching the house. Around this time, I developed a fear of being home alone. I couldn't be alone for even a minute, so if my parents and sister were ever gone, I'd call a neighbor friend to spend some time with me. One night my parents were in bed, but my sister and I were up late watching TV. We saw a car pull into our driveway and sit there with the lights on. I couldn't see who was in it, but I knew. After that, everything stopped. I remember thinking how crazy it was that he had done all of that and then just disappeared. A year, maybe 2 years later, I was sitting at home watching the finale of American Idol. It's funny, the little random details you remember when something significant happens. That was when the phone rang. The caller ID said it was coming from a correctional facility. Confused, I answered it. It was a collect call from you-know-who. I couldn't believe it. I obviously didn't accept the call and hung up. Never heard from him again. I told my parents about this years later, and they said, "No wonder you were so scared to be alone." I should have told them at the time, because it could have escalated even further. Sadly, this story mirrors a similar experience I had a year ago, in which I have also made a post about. I really do wonder if there is something about me that attracts these people. One lapse in judgment can lead to situations like these. To all the creepy men I've encountered in my life, let's not meet again. First of all, let's preface by saying this was in the very early 90s, and as we all know, it was a very different world those days, and I was pretty naive for a kid. Also, I had a relatively fucked up childhood, so this was not one of the worst things to happen by far, and therefore I pretty much brushed it off. When I was maybe 11 or 12 years old, I would visit the boys' club a lot, which was pretty big back then, and my parents thought that sending me to the boys' club camp for the summer made sense. The camp was not an overnight type deal, but featured all of the normal things you would expect, like a lake, arts and crafts area, crappy school-style lunches. I did the normal camp things, like found a girlfriend and got into trouble. The camp was run by counselors, which I could only assume were in their 20s and 30s. And as you would expect, they would come up with very interesting punishments for kids, like being forced to carry a huge wooden totem pole in circles in a hot field for some time. I never personally had this punishment, but I remember one of the older kids doing it. One punishment I did experience was being straight up punched right in the chest, which obviously would knock the wind out of you. One of the counselors that I had this experience with was named TJ, and he was a very large, well-built guy in his 20s. One day I did something wrong and got sent to the lunch area for essentially detention. The area was actually a large concrete floor with a wooden roof attached to a cabin that contained the kitchen. It was basically a school lunch setup where you would come up and choose chocolate milk or orange juice and get served a crappy turkey sandwich, a pack of mayo, and one of those amazing brownies. When I got there, I noticed there were about 4 or 5 kids already sitting on benches, and TJ was in front of everyone by the lunch serving area, addressing everyone while pacing about. I sat down and didn't really remember what happened until things started to get weird. TJ pulled out a knife and got an apple. He started skinning and stabbing it, saying stuff like, "This is what I'll do to you if you get in trouble again," and other things of that nature. Back then, I honestly didn't feel scared in any way, due to my tendency to completely shut down when shit hits the fan. But I did remember feeling very creeped out, and that he was trying very hard to be threatening. The younger kids, especially a little girl who was maybe 8 or so, was freaking out, crying. The next thing I remember is him telling her to follow him into the kitchen. I then heard lots of screaming and crying coming from the back of the kitchen. After a while he came back with her. Her face was streamed with tears. I remember it vividly. He then looked at me and another boy and told us to follow him as he escorted us to a huge walk-in refrigerator and brought us inside. He said, "I want you both to start screaming and acting like I'm killing you in here. If you don't make the other kids scared, I'll kill you for real." We did as he asked, and when he closed the door, we started screaming and wailing. At this point, I honestly thought it was kind of funny, because I rationalized that the little girl was told the same thing. After 5 to 10 minutes, he let us out and told us to go back to our benches. Again, I don't remember anything after this. It's pretty foggy. I remember when I got home that night from camp telling my mom about it, and I remember she called somebody, and I think that guy got fired. I don't remember ever seeing him again, and my parents never sent me back. I never really thought about it much growing up, but as the years have gone by, and I look back at things that I shrugged off as normal, I can clearly see they were anything but that.